Andy and I just got done with a cool conversation about AI and design and all of that. We're going to just chat for a while, and so hope you enjoy this conversation.
It's a scary future out there for all of us designers and people working in software and tech and design. We had a lot of fun chatting about this, and so hope you enjoy it too. It sucks as a designer to like constantly every single day advocate for yourself. Yeah. It's exhausting to advocate for yourself every single day. But I don't think that's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. If anything, we need to learn how to advocate for ourselves even more. It's hard to advocate for yourself as a junior designer as much as it is a senior designer. It might be a little easier the more senior you get, but the better these tools get, it's going to get a lot harder for the senior designers to advocate for themselves. And so that's going to be something that we need to focus on in the long term.
So I feel like PMs, engineers, and like designers might, start being the same role but with different specialties, I guess, right? The best developers that I knew were really good design minds, right? They were able to challenge me on like, yo, why did you do this? And it would be valid, right? And they just always also happened to be the best ones on the team at actually shipping it. And,
Well, that's a perfect example. Like they had good design minds, but they still weren't designers. Mm-hmm. And you still had a job at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the same thing applies to like all this new technology. Our PMs or VPs or whatever could get better at designing, but there's still room at the table for people like ourselves.
I don't know. I'm not sweating it. Like, I'm still here. Don't worry about me. I'm just like, I'm trying to like envision the world where we're at or where we're going to be with all of this. And it feels like we're heading to a spot where like the soft skills that we need to learn are the thing, right? Like the advocating for yourself. Like for me, on the teams that I've been on, I didn't have to because I was much more of like a startup guy. Now I was working at startups. I just knew what was the challenges that we were dealing with. Mm-hmm. I had like more of like a business mind and approach of like understanding how this moves the bottom line or whatever. And so I think it's like stuff like that where you don't have to like argue for your job over why it exists. Like I remember when I got on my last team, it was like you're gonna have a crystal ball to like because we need to move really fast. Like that was like kind of the thing. And
just to like see into the future, and like predict problems and solutions that you need to solve for.
And it was like the product team needs to be pushing out more shit than we've ever seen, right? Like kind of thing when I came on, and within a month that wasn't even in the CEO's mind. It was just like Nolan's got it. You know what I mean? It was because I was coming in with a lot of that backing, like, for myself of business understanding, but also too, like I understood like the end user and all of that. And so like, I think that's where it's going to be really valuable. The more I just feel like we're not going to be designing soon, right? We're not going to be spending time in Figma design soon.
No, I think it's still designing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way, the form of how we're designing. I just started reading the design of everyday things. Yes, there's so much to be designed. Designing your office, designing your living room, designing your house, designing your life. Like design's not just pushing pixels. Mm-hmm. And so as design tools evolve and change and shift, like so will we, and we have to in order to survive in this climate, but it's still designing. Just because we're not in a design tool, moving something around on an infinite canvas doesn't mean what we're doing is any less design.
With that in mind, let's speculate. Where does it begin and end for designers in 5 years, right? And then what tools do we need to be able to like do those things? You know what I mean?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
No, it's super lame. I know. I feel like juniors or even like people who are worried about their job security, right? What should they be working on, right? And I'm not like, hey, you should listen to me and nobody else. But it's also, we're working hard to test all this stuff and make sure like see where all this is heading, right? Until we can really refine stuff easily and make, we'll still be in there for the final stages, you know. But more and more of those final stages will get smaller and smaller, and until we're like living in cursor only or make or whatever. And so, you know, for me, a thing comes in for a new insight or whatever, like what do we do, right? For me, I think it's we jump into make and start like making 4 or 5 prototypes, trying to publish those and do some user testing, or is it, you know, like earlier, I guess we could do more like qualitative testing, right? Well, like, I mean, and that's kind of what we're doing already, right? Yeah. Like, but when you're in a team for a while and like the context is so understood by everybody that like you stop doing that testing eventually, right? Like, or so much of it, I guess. Like you understand the users already pretty well.
Yeah. I think usability testing is the best when you're not testing an entire feature, but you're hyper focusing on specific set of tasks. I'm experiencing that in my job right now, where we are not testing an entire feature from start to finish, but we're testing very niche things that are kind of like new or proprietary ideas and concepts that need validation on what people expect this feature to look like and behave and read like. Honestly, it's a lot of, is this the right language that we should be using? Because the feature isn't revolutionary, you know, like we could go search on Mobbin or plenty of other competitors that are doing something similar, but the principle on what it is that we're building is new. And so like hyper focusing on that and getting feedback on that is way more valuable. And I know that I just like went off on a tangent on like a research side of things, and the more mature the organization, the more established those teams are kind of like spread out, and you have divisions and arms for user research versus product design. But on much smaller teams, like teams that I'm familiar with and you are familiar with, we wear multiple hats and we're scrappy and we get shit done and we figure out how to do it. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if we can get to a place with these design tools to make less and less of the like granular decisions and focus on the bigger problems, the user's problems, we can spin these things up so much quicker. Cool. And like I want to design better products. It's what wakes me up every single day. I want to design products that people use. I don't want to like move a pixel or a piece of text or a rectangle, a gray box, 5 pixels to the right or 5 pixels to the left multiple times a day.
But don't you understand that 5 pixels might be the thing? No. Yeah. You know, what just came to mind while you were saying that was the, you know, like a growth designer. Do you know about that role?
Yeah.
I learned about it like just a couple of years ago. But a lot of times they are basically like they have a developer engineering partner, like, and it's like just them two, right? And then maybe a PM, and they'll go and like they'll do some research on like what like a KPI that's happening like for the global company, and then they'll try to like figure out what like could fix it, and then they like do a whole test, and they basically like segment out a portion of users will see like a component differently or like a different flow instead of the current flow. Yeah. And so, you know, honestly, like while you were saying that, like startup teams do not have the bandwidth to do that, right? Like there's no way beyond like, you know, a PM's doing that thought and being like, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on. Like, go design something new and we'll ship that and see if it worked, right? Like that's about as good as you can get. And so, like in a world where like all of your stuff lives in Cursor, and then with the Figma MCP, we can maybe plug in our make prototypes back and forth. That could be a really cool world where, you know, we pick out a page or a screen on a flow, and we say we're going to change this one little box, and like let's prompt through it, figure it out, make some refinements, and then it just goes live, and you start running some tests on that. Like that could be a world where like that changes our whole process.
Yeah. You were talking about growth designer, and it just like made me realize like that basically sounds like our ads pod that we've been doing for the past 6 months, where like we have this completely separate set of people, engineers, and I mean it's a front end engineer and a back end engineer, and they're completely responsible for like any sort of like conversion or retention or ad spend, and you know it's all growth, you know. Making more money.
Yeah, I feel like that's like really the fun side of a already launched product. Like for me, I've always been such a sucker for like 0 to 1 stuff, and I start getting bored after the product is launched, and it's kind of why I've not lasted long at teams, because I'm over it. I gotta go, But yeah, you know, like I think that would be, if I was to ever get a large, like a corporate job or whatever, that would be like where you live, because you gotta, like, you're actually able to like make that change. And so I could think that's like the make that change, quote unquote, on a startup is just like you're just shipping all of the stuff because you're building everything from scratch, you know. And so, but I think that this could be a world that we're living in really soon across every part of it. Is like. Everything is like on the dev side is like in Cursor or whatever, like, and it's able to sync up well with Make for us to be able to like pull in like little pieces and yeah, refine it and test those pieces out, you know.
So let's say Figma someday is able to integrate with Cursor, and we have direct access to the code base as designers. Figma would also have to integrate with something like GitHub, where like, so that we as designers aren't like making changes to the app and potentially like risking breaking shit.
Yeah.
And so then at that point, like, we are equally contributing to the code base in the same way the front end developers and the back end developers are. And we'll have to get a lot more comfortable with submitting for code reviews and all that, which is exciting, you know. But then, like, where does that put us as a title? Titles have evolved significantly over the past 10, 15 years. And every couple of years, it seems like a new title does emerge. There was web designer. Then it was UI, UX designer. Now it's product designer. This whole like design engineer title is surfacing, and everyone's trying to like jump on that bandwagon. But like, is that the direction that our roles are kind of evolving into? And if that is, where it lies the separation between design engineers and front end engineers?
I feel like it's kind of the same role, and I mean, like, you know, I haven't like tracked that job market side of it. Like every team that I've been on, like if the engineer was designing something, like, you're wasting time. Mm-hmm. And if I was coding something to try to like package it better for a handoff, I was wasting my time. And so like I just feel like this blended role thing. Like, I mean, nowadays with AI, maybe it's not so much, but like I feel like ultimately what it'll be is we're all doing similar stuff, but somebody has the last say on the pull request, you know, into GitHub. Somebody has the final say on like what data is good enough for this to go even into a pull request, and that'll be us. But then the PM will be like have final say on like what even we're testing or whatever, you know what I mean? And so like, but we're all kind of doing similar stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see a blended role ever being an actual thing that happens all across a lot of teams. Yeah. You know, like maybe you got to learn too much that's outside of your wheelhouse. Like our wheelhouse should be making the user experience perfect, right? Yeah. Like, and the second it's making sure the code base is up to date, like, or whatever, you know. Yeah, you're spending time away from the core objective, right? And that's also why we're probably there'll be multiple people on every product team, right? Like it's not like, early days on a startup, maybe it'll be smaller now, like on the prototype stages, but
Well, even right now, like senior designers are spread thinner than they ever have been, and teams are getting a lot leaner, and it's putting a lot of stress on senior designers. In a perfect world, yeah, we do have like people specializing on the user experience and other people specializing in code management. If we're learning to get leaner and scrappier, maybe there's not a world where that is the case.
I'm just like thinking back to every KPI my teams have had, and it's like it would be blasphemous to be like wasting time on like so siloed and moving around. It's like everything you're working on should be touching all the other things you're working on, and so but yeah, but like maybe it's just that like everybody's got hands on everything more, where it's like and maybe I think product designer is a really good role. What's missing is the software engineer needs to be product engineer or something like that. So they're more in with us, like at an earlier stage. Because I mean, that's what a lot of prototyping has been for us and stuff, is getting developers' eyes on stuff earlier, right? And so now it's like we could tag team a make prototype, and that's like part of our days, and they're coming at it from the technical limitations. Oh yeah, this won't work. Make sure you don't do that on the prototype and like stuff like that. And I mean, you could do that in a single meeting, you know what I mean? Like get a new prototype out. And then you go run and test it. They go prep for, whatever the fallout is. And then, the thing's already half built in the back end too by the time you're ready. You know what I mean? So really, we're pulling them in. We ain't going over there, bro.
It's so interesting because like every team is different and how they're set up and how they're structured. You have, in some companies, you have product arm, which includes management, product management. You have engineering arm that are all your software engineers. And you have a design arm. It's all your product designers or UX designers. But then you also have companies that are just product and engineering, where all of design reports to one of those two arms. And you just brought up the whole idea of like maybe software engineers become product engineers. So it's just like merging all of design, product, and engineering into one massive team. I use massive very loosely.
Hopefully. We all need jobs.
But also at the end of the day, like none of these titles actually matter. What we're doing matters. Whether we're designing, engineering, or managing. And sometimes we're all doing a little bit of everybody else's job too. And I think that's what makes you super attractive to hiring managers, is when you're scrappy and you can do a little bit of everything. And then at that point, you can kind of fit into any company, any organization, any structure that their teams are kind of set up for and built for.
When I was first starting, like I was in college and I was making a startup, and it, I sucked so bad for like a lot of the time. And by the time I would get out like all the new mock-ups, I would be like, fuck, I'm so much better than I was when I started. And now this whole thing sucks. So I redesigned it like 10 times, you know what I mean? And that's why we failed. But it's also like getting a thing out. Like when you're making like the dashboard, it's fun. But like making like the settings flows and like just all the junk that you have to do, that's really where you learn so much. And like, I just don't think you can like that is going away now because we've got Make to like just get us to that point, right? But I think like those are where you need to tinker the most on the testing on most of the time, right? 6 months ago I was trying Wizard and it just sucked, like compared like I think it's far enough now away that I can say this comfortably, is that I did a two deal collab with them. And the second one, I almost gave them the money back. I was like, guys, I can't get this thing to do anything okay, like relatively okay.
Yeah.
And I got on a team with their product team, like on a meeting with their product team. Like we were going rounds, and I finally found one thing that kind of worked, and I did the video. But like, and that was where AI design was just recently, you know. And then like, and I tried Bolt out, and then I've now, you know, and then I did Lovable, and now Figma Make, and it's like, man, like it is so whiplash of how quick it's moved. It's just exponential from here on, right? And so I think that's why for me, I'm so focused on like Make might be the one, Lovable might be the one, somebody we don't even know about might be the one, right? And it's really just, so I guess ultimately, what's your bottom line that like when you're watching these tools, what should you be testing in to put it into your workflows?
I think bottom line, like you need to focus on your prompt engineering. You need to focus on your prompting. You need to focus on your writing. Be explicit, be clear, be specific, because the more specific and explicit that you are in your prompt, the better the result is going to be. You can't just like, in the same way, you can't just like open ChatGPT and ask it a very open-ended question and expect a very specific result. You can't do the same in these AI tools. You can't just say like, make me this and expect it to like meet all the requirements of the thing that it is you are trying to build. I don't think you can achieve that in one single prompt. We've done that. We've talked to Sesame and Claude and gotten a like very detailed spec that was intended to hand off to a developer that we just fed to Lovable, and it just like barely scratched the surface, right? And so there's a lot of follow-up prompt. So the better your prompting in as like brief and concise as you can make it, it's going to get you something to react to quicker, and then iterate on that and iterate and iterate and iterate. And if you feel like you are iterating too much and it's not hitting the mark, start over. You just described that same workflow, but 10, 15 years ago when all these design tools didn't exist, and you designed it and then you redesigned it and then you redesigned it. Mm-hmm. That exists today. It's just not pushing pixels. It's rewriting a prompt. So.
Yeah. I hope that one day Figma and Lovable will drop the amount of like ghosted prototypes there are. Like I feel like there's so much out there where I'm never going to touch that make file again, right. You know. And I'm kind of like, that's what I've been struggling with lately. And it wasn't until that workflow last week that we played with where it was like you're so in control where you start with one thing and you expand out. Mm-hmm. Like I've been struggling with, let me make something that's like really focused and like this is what I want it to look like, and it just comes out with like, you know, but I'm also doing that for like 20 screens because it's amongst like 4 or 5 flows. And so,
well, that's why I think that workflow where you grab a sign up screen and you nail that look and feel, you're not worried about what comes after that. You're just like nailing in the design for that. And then once you can nail in the design for that, you can build on that feature and take it further.
So what's the best thing to start from then, right? Would it be a sign up screen? Because I feel like yeah, inputs are important, but then also like a dashboard is too broad. Like there's too much things happening that it'd be tough to zone in like the vibes, right?
That's a good question. Something that includes a handful of repeatable patterns that introduces hierarchy in text and icons. And like my mind is like immediately going to like some sort of card that has like a header, a description, some subcomponents inside of that. It might have a like bottom action bar, and that could be used in a lot of different places. I use a card in a lot of different places in my full-time job. I don't know. What do you think? What kind of component do you think would be helpful for nailing in look and feel? Yeah. And then you could take it and expand from there.
I've been thinking like about that because I've been trying to do some videos about all this stuff. And, you know, I think ultimately it's down to like whatever the product is, right? Like that you're trying to do, like kind of distilling it down to like, you know, like task tree. Let's take task tree. It's a to-do list, right? You got to have a really easy way to see what's on the to-do list and edit it and like, or mark it complete, right? Like, now what is editing? I don't know. Like what, that could be a whole different spiel, but like, you know, and then, you know, we've done enough makes now and prototypes off of task tree that we've seen like there's so many ways to skin a task card, a single task card. And so like, but then, you know, there's this other app that I use for visualizations on my tutorials. It's like a digital closet app. And I was thinking of using that on tutorial today. And I was just like, man, like there's so, like, what is the card that I would use as the beginning? And it would be probably like the outfit with like all the like clothes like on the card.
Sure.
But then I was like, well, that doesn't really get touched anywhere else, right? Like it kind of is, but it's like then those are in their own cards, like each of those clothing items. It's really like, it's tough to say like one thing that's going to work every time. Like I think ultimately it's down to like if you're explaining it to somebody, right? Like it's a digital closet app. Okay, what does that do? It's going to give me an outfit every day, randomly generated from my closet. Okay, so that's the thing. What is the randomly generated outfit? That's the first thing that you want to prompt for. Task tree. Make a task card and then refine like how do you interact with the checkbox? Like how do you edit it? Like what properties are shown beneath it? So, I don't know if there's like a single way to like say every app has it, but because like then you know, as far as hierarchy, it's a good way to like approach it. But it's also like some products are really minimal, really simple, don't have much hierarchy. So how do you pull that out? And like, how do you put that into one card? Like, yeah, it's got to be a detailed card. And then it's like, well, then you're setting up your whole product to be really detailed, which, you know, maybe that's also a good thing. But yeah, and I guess that's the argument for like why we'll always be here, right? Is that like we know where to start, right? Like you hear a thing and you're like, yep, I know exactly what to go prototype first. Ultimately, there's so many ways to skin all of this stuff. And so really you just got to, I think the best thing to do is just stay active and focused on like trying this stuff, right? Like for the longest time, I didn't try a lot of this stuff and I feel super behind as an educator, and I get the luxury to not have to like go find a job and do this. So.
I took a couple of years off in the middle of my career. And I felt like that set me back in a lot of ways. And when I came back ready to go hard on design again, the one thing that I brought back with me was just being curious. And so that's one thing that I, you know, highly recommend to everybody is just like keep being curious, keep reading everything that you can read, getting your hands on everything that you can get your hands on, learn everything that you can learn, because it's going to help you in the long run implement this to your workflows.
I'm Nolan.
And I'm Andy.
Thank you so much for watching. Love you. Bye.
Look and subscribe!